Hey guys, just like last semester when we talked about quadratic equations and we graphed them, we're going to be graphing cubic functions today. Now, a cubic function looks very distinct. It goes up really fast to the right side and goes down really fast to the left side. And it's different than a quadratic because a quadratic forms that U where it goes back up. Well, this one, since it's cubed, we don't affect the negative, so it's going to go down. So that has some effects. Let's take a look at our numbers we have here. So this is my parent function numbers. We have x of -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. And whenever we cube those, it gives us our other numbers. So we can see that it goes very fast downwards and very fast upwards. Now we're going to be using these parent function numbers to manipulate to find points on my other graphs. And we're going to be using a center instead of a vertex. My axis of symmetry is rotational instead of a line. Okay, there's no axis. It's just going to, if we twisted it around, it would line back up. We have an x-intercept, a y-intercept as always, and then the great thing about this graph is your domain and range are always going to be all real numbers, negative infinity to positive infinity, because it's going to keep going all the way to the left, all the way to the right, all the way up, all the way down. There's no maximum or minimum. Okay, so let's talk about what happens to our graphs whenever we change it up. Remember, we're working with A, B, H, and K. Okay, so first off, remember what our equation is that we're working with. It's this right here. F of x equals a times b times x minus h cubed plus k. So remember, a in this equation, A controls the vertical stretch or compress. If A is greater than 1, we stretch out my graph, it grows faster. If A is less than 1, if it's a fraction, it's gonna stretch slower. It's gonna have a vertical compress. All right, if it's B controls my, do not know why it does that sometimes. B controls my horizontal stretch or compress, and it is backwards. So to have a stretch by 2, we would have a fraction, okay? And if it was a compress by a third, that would be a whole number. So B is backwards. Inside the square, inside the cube, inside with the x, it's backwards. Okay, vertical reflection. That's whenever I have an A that's negative. A horizontal reflection is whenever B is negative. A horizontal shift, that's my H, okay? And remember, H is a liar. So if we have a -4, we're going to go to the right 4. If we have a +3, we're going to go to the left 3. And then lastly, my vertical shift, that is my K value. That's just on the end. It's not a liar. It controls my up and down. So let's break down some of these. Number 1, if I have a horizontal shift, 3 units left. So that means my H is going to equal -3. Going to the left, that's my H, -3. Vertical shift, 3 units down. That's my K. We're going to have a K of -3 too. So my equation is going to look like this. You can write it with f of x, you can write it with a y, whatever, but I'm going to write f of x equals, there's no a, there's no b that we're talking about, so it's just 1. Then we're just going to have x plus 3 cubed minus 3. Notice, whenever I plug my h into my equation, it changes from a -3 to a +3 because it's backwards. Whenever it's inside, it's opposite. It's a liar. Okay, table number 2. Reflected vertically. Reflected vertically. That means we're going to have a -a. Whatever my a value is, it's going to be negative. We're going to have a horizontal stretch by 2. Now, a horizontal stretch by 2, that's my B. B controls my horizontal, but remember, B is backwards. So we have a horizontal stretch by 2. That means my B is actually going to be 1/2. Next, vertical compressed by a third. Man, we got a lot going on today. If I have a vertical compressed by 1/3, Vertical compressed, that's my A. And so we're going to say my A is 1/3. Now my A is negative and 1/3, so I have to keep both of those in mind whenever we write my equation. And last but not least, we have my shift 5 right. Okay, so we're going to shift to the right 5. All right, so a lot is going down here. Okay, so let's plug all this in, and let's go ahead and write our equation. We're going to write f of x equals, my A is going to be negative, and it's going to be 1/3, so negative 1/3 times, well, then we're going to have to write my h, okay? And my h is, my b, we're going to have to write our b next, and my b is going to be 1/2. So we got my a in there, we got my b, now we're going to go x minus my h, and my h is going to be 5. Right? Because we're going to shift to the right 5. So I'm going to go x minus 5, close off my parentheses, and then put my cubed in there. So like I said, a lot going on. We have an a b, then my h is on the inside of the inside parentheses. I know, in tenths, right? And then the cubed on the outside. All right, way to stick with me on that one. Number 3. Vertical compressed by a factor of 1/2. Okay, vertical compressed by a factor of 1/2. That means A equals 1/2. Shift 3 units right. So that's going to be my H equals 3. And then 2 units up. My K equals 2. All right, so this one's pretty easy to write. I'm going to use Y instead of f of x just because I can. I'm going to go Y equals. My A is 1/2. X minus my h, so x minus 3 cubed, and then 2 units up, so we'll have a plus 2 on the end. All right, last one here, number 4. So number 4, we have reflect horizontally. So if I have a reflect horizontally, that means my b is negative, so we'll have a negative b. And then stretch vertically by a factor of 3. So my A is 3. Hey, this one's pretty easy. Let's write it. We're going to go f of x equals, my A is 3, parentheses, opposite b, so it's going to be opposite x, negative x cubed. There's no h, there's no k, so we can just leave it alone, just like that. All right, that was just to remind us all about how a, b, h, and k affect. It's just like when we graph square roots, when we graphed absolute value, when we graphed quadratics. Okay? A, B, H, and K affect all of these the same way. So let's go ahead, let's try to graph some for ourselves. Now, as we graph, we're going to be using our parent points right here, and we're going to be changing those points. So our parent points can be affected, well, the x values can be affected by going 1 over bx plus whatever h is. And my y values can be affected by going a times each y value plus k. So both of these will work out that way. So let's go ahead, let's dive in, and let's take a look here at number 6. So number 6, we're going to just list all of our information. So first, we're going to list my A, H, and K. So look, there's no real A or B that's distinct. So my A is just 1, my B is 1, my H is going to be -1 because it is the opposite of what's right there, right? It's going to be the opposite. And then my K is going to be +1. My parent function for this. Well, guys, we're working with x cubed, right? These are cubic functions for a reason. My parent function is going to be that. Okay, transformations. A, B, those don't affect anything, but my H and K certainly do. Okay, so here my H and K are going to change things up. My H says that we're going to go to the left 1, and my K says that we're going to go to the, not right 1, we're going to go up 1. So there you go. We're going to go to the left 1 and up 1. And so that leads me to my center. My center is going to be whatever H and K is. So my center is going to be at -1, 1. Right there. Okay? So to the left one, up one, there's my center. So I know my graph's going to go like up this way and down this way. All right. So let's go ahead and let's write out our new points. Okay? So our new points are going to be 1 over b times x plus h, and they're going to be a times y plus k. So we start off with our parent points, and we go from there. So my center, I know, is at -1, 1. And that makes sense because I have a point at 0 here, and my h is -1. B is not going to affect everything, so it's just, we're going to take each one of these points, and we're going to -1 to each one to get my x values, because we don't have to worry about b. We're just going to -1 to each one, so it's going to be -1, 0, 1, -2, and -3. And on the other side, my y. Remember what we do to that y. We take it, we multiply a to it, and then we add k. Well, there's no a to multiply it to it. A is just 1. So we're just going to add 1 to each one. So it's going to be a point at 1, at 2, at 9, at 0, and at -7. So all we've done is we've taken these points, affected it with h and k and a and b, and we've got a new set of points that I can put on my graph over here. So we already have a point at -1, 1. Now I'm going to have a point at 0, 2. I'm going to have a point at 1 all the way up to 9. I'm going to have a point at -2, 0. And I'm going to have a point at -3, -7. So you can see how my graph is going to take shape now. It's going to go up like this, curve over, it has that kink in the middle, and then it's going to go back up. Okay? And by doing this, I have been able to find my x-intercept and my y-intercept. Look, my x-intercept is going to be right here at -2, 0. And my y-intercept is going to be right here at 0, 2. Now, it doesn't always work out that cleanly, but hey, if it shows up in your points, we're going to use it. Now, remember, you can use Desmos.com, or you can use your graphing calculator and use the table function in your graphing calculator to help you find these points. Okay? And so with these points, that's how we graph. But it's important that you know how the graphs shift around. So it's important that you know A, B, H, and K. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about domain and range. Now, for all of these problems, your domain is going to be x equals all real numbers, -infinity to positive infinity. And your range is going to be y equals all real numbers, -infinity to positive infinity. Like I said, there is no maximum or minimum. This is just what we got. Okay, let's take a look at our next graph. So our next graph, number 7, we're going to find all the information for this one. So on this one, we have an a of -3. We have a b. Actually, we don't have a b. My b is just 1. My h is going to be -1 here, right? And then my k, if there's nothing out here, my k is just 0. Okay, now, your parent function always is just going to be the same. It's going to be y equals x cubed for these. And now let's talk about our transformations. My first transformation with this -1 for h is I'm going to go to the left 1. Okay? We're going to go to the left 1. My next transformation, since a is a negative, I'm going to have a vertical reflection. And my last thing, since a is a 3, we're going to stretch up and go up even faster. So since a is 3, we are going to go have a vertical stretch by 3. Okay? All right. Then my center. Remember, your center is wherever h and k is. So since my h is -1 and my k is 0, I have a center at -1, 0. Now we need to find some points. Remember, you can find your points by either plugging into your graphing calculator or another way, but using Desmos or whatever. But I'm going to find my points with my table. So remember, this is my original parent function. It goes -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, -8, -1, 0, 1, 8. And so we're going to take those parent points and we are going to say, okay, what affects this side? Well, I have a -1 here for my h. I don't have a b, so it's just going to be x minus 1. We're going to take each one of my parent points, and that's going to affect the next one. Then my other one, there's no k to add to it, but there is a -3. So we're going to go -3 times y for each one of these. So it's going to be tricky. Let's start with my x's. We'll go -2 minus 1 is -3. -1 minus 1 is -2. 0 minus 1 is -1. 1 minus 1 is 0. And 2 minus 1 is 1. So there are my x's. Now my y's, we're going to take each one of these and we're going to multiply it by -3. So -3 times -a is going to be a positive 32. -1 times -3 is a positive 3. 0 times -3 is 0. 1 times -3 is -3. And 8 times -3 is -32. Okay, so there are my new points. We can put all of those points on my graph here. I have a point at -1, 0 already. So now let's put a point at -2, 3. Then let's put a point at 0, -3. And our last points go 1 all the way down like here and here. And so my graph is going to be a very steep graph that kind of looks like this, a very steep graph indeed. Now, you'll notice here, I hope, you'll notice here that it has a negative shape. Remember, positive graphs go up like this, negative graphs go down. So this one is going down, so you can tell that it's been flipped, that it is a negative graph. That's a telltale sign. Okay, now we can get my x-intercepts and y-intercepts from this. Look, my y-intercept is when x is 0, so I have a y-intercept at 0, -3. And my x-intercept is when y is 0, so we have an x-intercept at -1, 0. Now, it doesn't always work out perfectly, so make sure you're using your table, make sure you're using Desmos to help you with this. Okay, then lastly, my domain and range. My domain is x equals all real numbers, -infinity to positive infinity. My range is y equals all real numbers, -infinity to positive infinity. Okay? All right. Now let's go down and let's take a look at numbers 8 and 9. We're going to write the equations from the graph. So we're going to talk about these translations. So first off, we can see that my center has shifted to the left 2 and down 3. So that's my transformations, to the left 2, down 3. Now the next thing I want you to notice is my graph grows really quickly. It doesn't just go up 1 over 1, it actually goes up 1 over 2, over 1 up 2, over 1 down 2. So it's going to have a vertical stretch by 2. You can kind of think about it as like the slope. We went up 2 over 1, down 2 to the left 1. To find those first points, that tells me what my translations are. So my equation for this one's going to be f of x equals, well, because of my vertical stretch by 2, we're going to have a as 2 in the front. Then I'm going to have to go x plus 2 cubed. Because with that left 2, that means h is -2, so it's going to be backwards in here. And then last but not least, we're going to go down 3. If I go down 3, that means my k is -3. So we're going to have a -3 here on the end for this equation. All right, our last one here together today. It's number 9. So number 9, we're going to go to the right 1 and down 2. So right 1, down 2. And I want you to notice, this graph opens downwards like this. So it is a negative graph. So that means we have a vertical reflection. So my equation is going to be f of x equals vertical reflection, negative out in front, x right 1, so we're going to minus 1 in my equation, and down 2, so I'll have a minus 2 there on the end. Okay? So that's how you can interpret these graphs. Remember, it's all about A, B, H, and K. You can use your calculator. You can use Desmos to help you with these. And I hope it goes well. As always, let me know if you have any questions.